Follow your intuition is probably the most common bad advice I hear given on a daily basis. It's a misunderstanding of your divine gifts. Yes, you do have intuition, if you will, but intuition is not what people think it is. When they tell you to follow your intuition as if this will be the answer to life's problems, as if this will be what you need to stay safe, moving through an uncertain world, they are implying that you have some sort of divine voice inside of you that will tell you when something is dangerous or when you're in danger, that will tell you when you can trust a person and when you can't trust a person, that will guide you to help you to understand if someone has bad intentions or if something's not going to turn out well for you. And as I talk this through, you should start to analyze if any of this is really making sense on a logical, scientific level. There's a misunderstanding of the universe, and you don't want to be caught up in that misunderstanding because then you can't navigate the universe correctly. The idea that you would have a voice inside of you that always knows the right thing to do would actually be a negating of your ability to navigate the world properly, and it would be almost like a cruel joke, because that would mean that you always know what is right intuitively, but somehow you keep doing things wrong, and somehow things keep going wrong around you. And somehow you can end up in situations where things are falling apart, where you're in a terrorist attack or you're being attacked or abused by someone, but you should have been able to avoid all of this because you have a spider sense. So that means that you go through life having to feel guilty for everything bad that happens to you or everything that goes wrong, whether you consciously made a choice or not, because you have an intuition, you have a voice, according to this false belief, that always knows the right thing to do. It's kind of a cruel joke because it's not always clear to you if that's just you talking to yourself, if you're just being overly cautious, or if this is the special voice, this intuition, because it sounds a heck of a lot just like all of the rest of the thoughts that you have, and it feels a lot like your normal day-to-day feelings that you tend to have. And so let's break down what intuition actually is and where our divine gifts really lie here, because we do have a divine gift of intuition, but people don't know what it really is and how to use it correctly. So I'm going to start out right away by letting you know, no, you don't have a voice inside you that always knows the right thing to do. True wisdom is recognizing what you do not know. And you do not know what the future is. You do not know what a person's intentions are. You do not know if a person has a good heart. You do not know how things are going to turn out, if someone is going to decide suddenly to do something bad, or if they've already been plotting. There are certain things we do not know, and we need to first acknowledge that. It's not that you do know and you always know. It's actually that you don't know. So what about that voice that we hear, or that feeling that we feel that told us that we were in danger, and then we found out later, yeah, that really was a bad guy, and it turns out we were right. All of us have an initial impulse, a subconscious mind, which can respond within 1/12 of a second to external stimuli. Your brain is taking in data, 3 million bits of data every few seconds. So with all of the stimuli and all of the data that's coming in, when you're in an emergency situation, you have to be able to make a split decision just right away. You need to know, okay, am I going to go left? Am I going to go right? Am I going to stand still? And so you have default inside of you from birth. Every human and animal has a fight, flight, freeze response mechanism. It's an automatic response 1/12 of a second, doesn't need a lot of thinking, doesn't need conscious reasoning, doesn't take the time to process, and just gives you an impulse. It's going to be a feeling that surges through your body. There's adrenaline that drops into your system. You feel afraid. It's a feeling of fear. It's a feeling of uncertainty. It's a feeling of discomfort. And then you got to make a decision right then and there. More so, you got to take an action. And it's usually going to be fight, to be combative, flight, to run away or to walk away from a situation, or freeze, to just stand still and do nothing. That is your initial impulse. Everyone has that. It is not a divine, special Jiminy Cricket voice that's guiding you through life and letting you know where all the bad guys are. It really has no idea whether you're actually in danger or whether this is a benign situation. Like if you're walking down an alley and you see a guy behind you and he's wearing a hooded sweatshirt and he's walking with his hands in his pockets, right? Your intuition is going to tell you what? This is dangerous. I need to get away from this guy. I need to get out of this alley. Maybe you're going to start walking faster, doing something that you feel is going to help you to mitigate the danger here and make you feel safe. Or maybe you'll just freeze up and do nothing. But whatever the case, you have an initial impulse. And that is what intuition is. By definition, intuition is making a decision without conscious reasoning, making a decision without conscious reasoning. It's the same as prejudice. Prejudice is making a judgment call without conscious reasoning. You're going to prejudge the situation. That's all it is. I'm being prejudiced. I see a guy with a hooded sweatshirt behind me, and I'm prejudging that I'm not in safety and this guy's dangerous and I need to get out of there. Is that a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing. That's caution. So ideally, we would train our subconscious to be cautious, but just recognize that that's all it is. It's caution. A lot of times our subconscious is trained by trauma, so we go through life always feeling unsafe. But that's not a Jiminy Cricket voice that's leading you through the universe. That's just your traumatized subconscious mind that views all situations virtually as unsafe. You have other gifts. And if you try to live your life by just following the initial impulse, listening to your intuition, then you will miss out on the other gifts that you have that are actually more accurate, because your intuition only has a 50% accuracy rate. It's just as random as rolling the dice. It doesn't actually know when you're really in danger, if the guy in the hooded sweatshirt is actually danger, or if he's actually a good guy. He could be a Wall Street banker with kids at home and a wife, and he has no ill intent. He's just trying to get to the local store, and he's just taking a shortcut, right? Your intuition can't tell you all of that. Again, your intuition cannot tell you all of that. You only learn that information later when you're able to take in data. Which brings us to your other divine gift, which you should be relying on, which you should be following through your life. And that is conscious reasoning. Conscious reasoning, exactly as it sounds, is you consciously observing, thinking, processing data and information, and then coming up with a solution or a conclusion that you will do based on conscious reasoning. This is going to look like being able to sit back in your seat and say, let me think. Some examples of times that you can use conscious reasoning is almost all the time. In very small situations, by percentage, do we actually need to just go with the initial impulse or the intuition? Because those situations are emergencies and we don't have time to think. Conscious reasoning takes time. Intuition doesn't. Intuition's immediate, it's an impulse, and we like that. We like that it's easy, so we like the idea that we've got some voice of an angel that's just like implanted inside of us at all times that always knows. We like that idea, but it's not reality. It's magical thinking. There are things you don't know. Conscious reasoning can be used throughout your entire life for everything except for emergency situations where you don't have time to think. So instead of thinking that this new guy that you met is probably a bad guy, because that's what your intuition tells you, it's actually better to use conscious reasoning and take your time and process data, instead of assuming that this boss that you met isn't going to like you and that this job interview is a waste of your time, because that's what your intuition is telling you. It's better to give it a chance, give it your best effort, and use conscious reasoning in order to decide what's really going to be best for you moving forward. So let's take an example. Let's imagine you're outside and walking on a sidewalk, and a car pulls up with a guy inside. He rolls down his window and he does like this to you. He's like, "Hey, come here." And you notice he's got these leather gloves on. His back windows are tinted. What's your intuition? Likely, if you have a cautious intuition, or especially if you have a traumatized subconscious mind, your intuition is, heck no, I'm not going over to this guy. I'm not walking over to his car. I don't know what his intentions are. I don't know if he's trying to snatch me. I don't know what weird thing he's got in mind. This is just a weird situation, and I don't feel comfortable. And so you will freeze and stand there on the sidewalk and do nothing, maybe because you're afraid of being combative or running away, or you will run away or become combative, fight, flight, freeze. You understand? So these are your initial impulses. But what can happen is that you later learn that this guy was actually a murderer. And what do you tell yourself? I knew it. My intuition is always right. And we kind of create a false narrative. And that's what a lot of people are doing when they say, my intuition's always right. It never leads me wrong. I always know. I was right this one time when I saw this guy. But if we analyze a little bit, we might realize something. There's variables in this situation, and the variable is him. Because if the car pulls up to you and it's a guy and he's got gloves on, he's got tinted windows in the back, and he does like this to you, it's a weird situation. But imagine he pulls away and you freeze and you do nothing, but you never find out anything about him being a murderer. In fact, that's happened as well, where you followed your intuition, but you didn't find out that there was any confirmation that you were right. What if it turns out that he's just a grandfather and his voice is just weak and he's just looking for his kid's new house so that he could bring these gifts that he's got in the back seat? And he's just got the gloves on because he doesn't want his hands to get sunburned. He doesn't want sunspots on his hands. And so you judge the whole situation to be one thing, but it really turns out to be something else. Am I saying that you should listen to your intuition? No, I'm saying that your intuition is not always correct. There's variables. And in this situation, the variable is what he really is. That part we don't know. So if you hear on the news that he was bad, then you say, I was right. But if you never hear anything, then you just forget that there was a situation where your intuition told you to be cautious and that you were cautious, and then it turned out there was no danger. So you're not actually bringing in that data when you say, my intuition's always right, because it's actually not always right. Sometimes it's wrong. What it is probably always is cautious, scared, and so you can almost predict what your intuition is going to say. It's going to say, you're in danger, you should fear for your life, you can't trust these people, in almost all situations, especially when you have a traumatized subconscious. Of course, you can train your subconscious mind. Athletes train their subconscious mind so that their initial impulse is to do something really kind of cool or miraculous, like to turn around and hit a faded jump shot, or a boxer who is trained to take a punch instead of just falling down and crying, as many of us might do. He would know how to absorb it and then counter. they have trained their initial impulses. You can train your initial impulses too. So you don't have to stay in the traumatized mindset. You can train yourself to be more calm and to rely on conscious reasoning by training yourself to pause and to think in most situations. Of course, when there is an emergency, it's good that you have either a trained subconscious mind or a cautious subconscious mind. Those are good things. But don't think that following just that is going to get you through life. Don't forget you have the divine gift of conscious reasoning. This is what allows you to process all of the data. This means that you will stop, pause, and think. Most things in life, like talking to your boss, talking to your children, talking to your husband, talking to a girl that you're interested in, talking to a guy that you're interested in, going into social situations, most of these things don't require you to rely on your intuition. And it would be foolish if you did. Because your intuition is making a decision without conscious reasoning, so you're actually making the least informed decision. And that's where you're going to get led wrong. Because your intuition in a social situation might tell you, none of these people like you, they're all judging you. Danger, danger, danger. And talking to your boss, he doesn't like you, he's going to fire you. Don't go meet with him. Danger, danger, danger. When talking to your kids, you got to yell at them, and you got to do the way your parents used to raise you. You got to talk to them like that. Fight, 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 right? Talking to your spouse, talking to a girl or a guy that you're interested in, flight, flight, flight. A lot of times your intuition would actually lead you wrong in these scenarios. So no, don't just follow your intuition. It's not going to just lead you in the right direction. Follow conscious reasoning. Utilize conscious reasoning. Take your time, sit back. The cerebral cortex, the larger part of the brain, it's the wiser part of the mind, but it's slower. It processes only like 150 bits, per few seconds. But the processing power, that is the sweet spot, because your brain has the ability to take in these million pieces of data. And if you give it time, it can actually pull out some AI level understanding, some godlike level wisdom. And I am not joking. If you give yourself the time to actually think about a social situation, you'll come up with wisdom like, hey, don't worry about what they think about you, because anyone who doesn't like the authentic version of you isn't worthy of you, and that's not your crowd. You're not trying to get everyone to like you. You're trying to find your authentic matches, and you find that by just going in and being yourself. Whoa, where did all that wisdom come from? From taking the time to just think. Hey, remember, your boss is just a human like you. They have needs, they have wants. If they're coming to you and they're talking to you, it could be a good thing. It could be an opportunity to learn more about their needs and wants and how you can be of better service to them. So go in with an open mind and take notes and show humility if you receive a correction. Wow, where did all that wisdom come from? Conscious mind reasoning. It's not coming from your intuition. You're not going to get that level of wisdom from your intuition, because that's just initial impulses. That's the guts. That's the feelings. That's the emotions. That's not wisdom. You need higher wisdom. So remember, you have a divine gift of intuition, but no, don't just follow your intuition. That's just initial impulses, and it doesn't have all the information. It's prejudice. You also have a divine gift of conscious reasoning. That's what you want to use. You want to go through your entire life living consciously, to process, to pause, to think, make people wait for responses to their questions. Tell people you're going to get back to them when they ask you for something, so that you can process. And that is going to give you 80 to 90% good results. And I am not exaggerating. Whereas your intuition is only 50% correct, your conscious reasoning, 80 to 90% beneficial results. That's a lot. You definitely want to live there. People who are not just surviving, but are actually thriving in life, are using conscious reasoning to become creative, to make wise decisions, to access their ability to invent and to show ingenuity and resourcefulness. So you're looking at these people and you're like, man, they are really thriving. They're not just making it, they're like changing the world, making the world a better place. That's what you want to be. That's who you want to be. And you have the ability to be that by accessing your divine gift of conscious reasoning.